Well, the Capitol's had a very busy new year and it's only just getting started.
Yeah, hard to believe we have another election in just 5 days. Tuesday is the spring primary. It's the same day the governor presents his budget to the legislature, and it comes as a Supreme Court that will determine the court's ideological majority heats up. So joining us to break it all down, lots to talk about with political analyst Brandon Scholes.
Hello.
Hi, Brandon. Welcome back.
Nice
Good to see you.
Thank you.
So turnout for a spring election is usually low. This could be very low because for about 95% of voters, there will be one thing on the ballot. Depending on where you live, there's some local races in outlying communities, but the race for DPI, Department of Public Instruction, is what everybody will see on their ballot. Handicap the race for us a little bit. Tell us what's on.
Well, that's
what's
if they go to the polls.
Yeah.
If we went to the Capitol, walked around the square, I bet you 4 or 5 out of 25 people might know there's a race. We've seen turnout in these spring election primaries as low as 6%, maybe up to 10%. But as you said, DPI, Department of Public Instruction, is the race on the ballot. You might see some judges and city councils and different things depending on where you live. But this is an important race because it's a primary. There are 2 liberal candidates, the incumbent Jill Underly, who's the superintendent, and Jeff Wright from the Sun Prairie School District. They're kind of going to compete for the Democrat vote. And Brittany Kinzer, who's the conservative, she's actually a blue dog Democrat. She's on the ballot, but she's very conservative. So the primary next week is super important because the Department of Public Instruction does a lot of things. I mean, they do curriculum, they do scoring. You've seen what's happened in Milwaukee public schools. You've seen the governor call an audit on our system. And education is a high priority no matter where you are. It's one of those quality of life issues. So this is important. People should take the opportunity to learn who's on that ballot. Just go hit that cool thing called Google. Learn a little bit about where they are in some of these issues. We always want to see a higher turnout, but this is really tough. Yeah. But what it leads into is the April 1st. And who picks April 1st for election day, right? It leads into the big enchilada. Not only will DPI be on the ballot for those 2 candidates, but it will be for the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. And if you remember a year ago, that was a $55 million race, the most expensive in the country. This one will be more expensive, but it's for who controls the majority of the court. As you said, the ideological bent of the court is determined in this race. And you have Susan
And there's no primary.
There's no primary. That's why you don't see it in your ballot. And some people might go, that's really weird, but it's 2 people. It's Susan Crawford, who's the judge in Madison. She's the liberal candidate. Brad Schimmel, who's the former attorney general, is the conservative candidate. They have already raised a lot of money. Crawford has raised $7 million. Schimmel has raised $4 million. They've each got almost $1 million from their political parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. But that's not the big money. The big money will come from outside groups. And we could see spending in this race hit $75, $80 million. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's more than any race has ever been in the country. But it's for all the marbles, as they say, because it will determine things like Act 10. Judge Crawford has already said she's going to look at redistricting again in the 1st and 3rd congressional districts. They may change those lines. So, plus there's all the other things that are still kind of in the queue. There may be some abortion. There may be some other things that come up before this court. That's why it's going to be a very intense April election. You could see, turnout generally in April is like 19, 20%. We've seen as high as 26% last time. It could be even more. And I'll just tease one more thing because we'll talk about this again. Who shows up in that election? Is it Democrats who are really, really looking for a revenge vote from last fall? Is it the MAGA people that show up because now they've engaged in the public? So it's going to be a wild election.
Yeah. And then I remember the last time around with the Supreme Court, everyone was watching Wisconsin. With the governor's budget coming up, we're looking at that process. The federal funding freeze uncertainty, will that affect things here locally in the state?
It could. When you see the governor's budget, and he introduces next week, it goes to the Joint Finance Committee, the legislature, then they tear it apart and they start to go through all their hearings. But one of the things you see in a lot of departments is GPR, general purpose revenue. That's the tax money we all pay. That's our taxes. But you see Fed funds, program funds, SEG funds. So yes, federal funds do play a part in our state budget. And if they're not coming, or if you're uncertain, you're going to find legislators having to figure out, okay, if we thought we were going to get $1 from the feds for this program and we're not, do we cut the program, cut part of the spending? Do we add more taxpayer dollars? So this is something that Wisconsin and the legislature has never had to deal with before, this uncertainty of federal funds. And I don't think anybody expects that there's a quick, short answer coming from Washington in terms of how this is going to turn out. This could be a year or two. So I would suspect that rather than having a budget in limbo, they will make some hard decisions on how to get past federal funds and maybe make accommodations if it comes later down the road. This is new turf, as they say. This is the wild, wild west.
Well, we're glad we have you to help
Yes,
us
thank
navigate
you.
all the way through it.
Need a whole show with you. All right, thank you, Brandon.
I'll take the hour.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.